Incoming transmission from an unknown source. It seems to be urgent. Patching them through. They're calling themselves the HoloNet Marauders.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the HoloNet Marauders podcast. I'm AJ, joined here by the Bombad batch of Jamie and Matt.
Oh, you got to come up with a new one eventually.
I know.
But it's got to be on the fly. It's got to come to you like
it's supposed to be. It's got to come to me as I'm saying it. It didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
It didn't come this time.
It's got to be like a revelation. You can't just like plan it.
There was a lot of suspense there, but yeah, we're back for yet another great podcast episode for you guys.
Yar.
If you're listening to this on the audio version, we have a YouTube, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you can
we have
listen
a
to us in your car. We have a podcast. It's audio.
We are a podcast.
After all.
But be sure to like and subscribe, as it says here on the screen, if you're watching this. And I recently did a deep dive into the 1999 marketing campaign around the Phantom Menace.
That's a great video. Check that out.
People have been getting a kick out of it, and I mean, I've always enjoyed that kind of stuff. So if you like that kind of stuff, let us know. We enjoy it. We want to make more stuff like that. So
I've always said that there is not a single piece of inanimate object on planet Earth that didn't at one point have Phantom Menace merch tied to it, or the Phantom Menace branding. Ooh. Oh.
Hey. So all goofiness aside, but we are a very goofy group.
Yeah, that's what we should be called.
Goofy
We're not
goobers.
the Bombad batch. We're the goofy group.
Goofy group?
That's us.
We're here to talk about women in Star Wars today, and like
Yeah.
why that's important, and how it's really progressed since 1977 when Star Wars all began, up until 2023 now, which we're in, and we'll get into that, and that's gonna be a great discussion, I think, for us. But to lead off, we have our questions that we're gonna be returning to. And I pulled a few because I'm gonna I want to look at these, but let's see. I think I'm gonna go with this one. We could do a couple maybe, but we'll do a couple if you guys are good. If you guys behave.
Okay.
What?
That's not
if
happening.
I behave.
I'm
So
too goofy.
goofy goober.
So goofy guy.
You can give Grogu one toy from our galaxy. What do you give him and why?
I would give
That's
him
something you didn't see
one
coming.
of those like plastic jars of slime that you press your fingers into and it makes a fart noise.
Flarp.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Flarp.
I would do that because it would annoy the shit out of Den. Like he would despise it so much, but Grogu would be having the time of his life. And then he would try to eat it.
Yeah, he would eat it. He'd definitely
okay.
eat it.
Oh yeah.
As all kids are.
Now I want
He
that
would,
to be
and
my
he would
answer.
eat it.
Yeah, you'd be fine.
He'd be just ripping them into it like the whole ride.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
The whole ride around.
He'd be sitting in that little dome in the back of the N1, and he'd just be like,
And Den's
just like him in IG-12 when he's going no,
Yeah,
but it's him
exactly.
just going. That's it.
Exactly.
That's it.
Flarp
There you
is
go.
Flarp is a toy. Matt, what do you have something other than Flarp?
Yeah, I have a good one.
Is it on your
I'm
desk?
definitely giving him this.
A replica of
I would
himself?
not hand this over lightly. So this is a big deal. I would give him shit in your shoes, Baby Yoda.
Why do you have that ready as like a header?
It's always there.
All right.
I think he would love this. He'd be just
Yeah, it'd be like-
entranced by it.
It'd be like
And
the equivalent of having like a baby doll, okay? Like
It might
I don't
inspire
know.
him to perform mischief. Because this guy is very mischievous, as you can clearly see.
I like the Flarp idea still. I can't think of something. I mean, silly putty. What's he gonna do? With
That's
silly
the
putty,
same
though?
as
That's
Flarp.
the same as
It's a little
Flarp.
different. It's
What
not
do
for
you think? What is he
farts.
gonna do? He's
You
gonna
can-
find galactic newspapers to put it on to
You
peel
can
the
pick
comics off of.
Oh, I got one.
Any
Ball in a cup.
toy.
Ball in a cup,
Come
dude.
on.
You're the
He'd make it-
master of ball in a cup.
He would make it
Cheat that.
levitate and just.
He would cheat. This
He
guy.
would.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand the
cheats.
concept of like.
He already
fairness.
has the ball.
That's
Yeah,
true.
so-
No, he just
All he
needs the
needs
cup.
is the cup.
Yeah.
He's got
But Jamie wins. I think Flarp. Not that
Oh,
it was
yeah,
a
there you go.
competition,
Jamie
but
won.
Flarp was the best one. Okay. Well, I would get to another card, but I think we nailed it with that one.
That's enough. That's all
So,
we need. Set the tone.
We'll get into our discussion here where we're going to talk about women in Star Wars. And I don't know what, like, I've been wanting to do an episode on this for a while, just like our last episode where Matt talked for an hour about mythology with me, teaching me about mythology, basically. No, but I wanted to do that one for a while, and I wanted to do this one for a while. And I know we would have a lot to say on the topic, but it's really interesting, like, I mean, for obvious, like, cultural reasons, I guess, but like 1977, we basically, up until 1983, when the original trilogy ended, we basically have two women in the universe, in the galaxy of Star Wars. We have Princess Leia, Mon Mothma. Family Guy made a joke about it. It's the only other woman in the galaxy.
Hey, you forgot Aunt Beru or Aunt Beru.
Oh,
that's a big one.
My apologies. That is, I did forget.
Aunt Beru's great.
But the point is, like, we had like 2, 3, 4 women characters.
Luke had a friend who was a girl.
And they cut her out of the movie.
They cut her out of the movie. So
yeah, that's true. But then they put her into Book of Boba Fett. But that's kind of the point. Like,
that's true.
You have
they didn't say it was her, but it was her.
You have things now that take place in the original trilogy, and even like Star Wars Battlefront, for example, you have like women stormtroopers running around and stuff, and it's like that wasn't a thing back then, and like people were all stuck up about that. But like, it's cool that you're kind of able to go back and not change history, but change Star Wars history, I guess, in a way, and like make it normalize that women are everywhere.
Sexist.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. And even just as an outside, as looking at the content as it is, like you had those very few women characters, and then now we won't talk too much about the show Ahsoka, but like in Ahsoka, you had basically like it was led by all female characters,
3 female leads. That was pretty.
So it's come a very long way.
Pretty cool.
And as we were getting ready to think of this or record this, Matt, you were like, I'm thinking of my favorite women characters, which we're all going to get into eventually here in Star Wars. You know, like keep thinking of like 10 more from like recent years. I'm like, oh, that's the point. Like,
yeah,
it's changing a lot.
When you were talking about it, I guess I had never thought of this before. Gee, I wonder why. But I'd never thought of it. Like after Aunt Beru dies, Leia's the only woman in the entire movie.
Yeah.
Like there is literally not another woman that appears, maybe like in the background in Mos Eisley, like definitely in the background, right? I think a couple of the aliens in the background are like women, but
yeah, there's like the twin assassin sisters at the bar.
Just like they're so hard to notice.
Didn't like before that though, but yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Anyway, so.
But like obviously, Jamie, we have you on our show here, and I think it's important for you. Much more important.
We invited you, special guest
on the show. Just
we wanted you to speak to this. It's more your opinion on this is very important. Of the question is, why is it important to have women more involved in Star Wars? So I guess you can take the floor with that.
Yeah, I mean, like women are 50% of the world as it is. So I think that the biggest takeaway in anything with Star Wars in general is you find your own galaxy like within it, and even especially recently, but like. Or you find your own galaxy, or you find your own space within that galaxy of like where you fit. And like you're always trying to find yourself. And I don't know, when George made it in 1977, he didn't think it was going to be what it was. He didn't know it was going to like grow to like be that much. It became really evident like really quickly like what it was going to become. But he's just making a movie in space, a bunch of dudes. And like, I don't know, the thing with like me, and like I've dove into this like a lot like on our show of just like how I got into Star Wars myself, and like I was always aware of it like as a kid, and it was never something that I really like was head over heels like in love like about. And I think a lot of that was because I was a girl and it just wasn't as like accessible like to me. Like sure, like I knew about it, like friends were into it, and like my older siblings like knew of it, but they weren't like obsessed with it. And like I also, in case it's not incredibly obvious, I'm not like the most like feminine of like women. Like I like dance along the edge of like non-binary sometimes, and so like being like I'm just like whatever. Like it's not really something I was like into like as like a kid. And so like seeing like recently in recent years of just getting a character like Rey originally, that was like something that made me just like click with Star Wars. That was literally the moment of seeing myself in Star Wars as well. Especially for like that moment in time in 2015, for me, because she was on her own doing everything like herself, and like it was literally just her against the galaxy pretty much. And all the other at that point in time, like the other like female leads like were different. They weren't necessarily like something that I would like want to like be like myself. Like I didn't see myself as a princess, so I wasn't going to be like a Princess Leia. I didn't ever want to go into any sort of like political roles and be like a senator. So like I love Padme, but like I never related to her. And I also didn't care to be in like any sort of a relationship as like a kid. Like I wasn't a kid who like I wasn't a little girl who dreamed of like her wedding day. That was never something I was like really into. And so like the whole like romance thing just didn't click with me as a kid. I love it like looking back on it, and I see its flaws, but I also like love to like see everything like looking back on it. But like the first character that like related with me was Rey. And so like it's important for women to be in Star Wars, clearly, not just to like make things like equal, but in order to see yourself. And it's grown so much like as well of not just women, but just other cultures, other races, and just gender in general is just like what we're aiming for. And it's just a reflection of what is real life. And I don't know, we can talk about it like for like years of just like it's important for that exact reason. Like we're on this podcast right now, 2 guys, 1 girl, and we're all white. And so like we've all like seen Star Wars from the beginning of this is what it is, but Star Wars has grown to be so much more than that, and I love every single moment of it because it like we've all had our moments, and we want to see everyone else get their moments as well, being like, hey, yeah, that's me on screen. And that's the goal of all this. And like Star Wars reaches so many people that it has to involve all these other people. It has to involve everyone, and that's what it's about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's
definitely.
like, I mean, it was like so perfectly said, and you even, I mean, we even have, I mean, that number needs to grow too, but we even have some non-binary characters in Star Wars.
Very
in
slid in
Squadrons,
there.
we got one. Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
so that's the next step, I think. To
Yeah.
And even gay relationships, like we have some of those, not very prominent.
It's not as overt yet, but it's on its way. Yeah, it's something that Star Wars isn't necessarily like a love story, like in any way, shape, or form. Like, sure, like there are like relationships like along the way, but it's never like centered that way. Like we have like some works that are like specifically about relationships of characters, and like that's not really ever what Star Wars was about. But you're not gonna have like a built out like world and galaxy of just people just like standing next to each other, just hey. No, they're gonna have relationships. And so like
Right.
we want to see those relationships.
And of course I did mention that it began with like 1, 2, 3 women characters. But like Princess Leia, like she was iconic. I mean, she is iconic. And Carrie's iconic for that character and her work that she put into it. But like she wasn't a damsel. They set her up to be a damsel in distress, but she wasn't. Like she was like, hey,
save
you
herself.
scruffy looking nerf herder, like I can handle this. She grabs the blaster, and she's the one that dives into the garbage chute. She leads the way. And Rey does a similar thing in Force Awakens, like stop taking my hand to Finn, like I don't need your help. And Padme's like that too. I mean, Battle of Geonosis, she's I forget what she's on top of things, like she climbs up the thing to free herself.
To be on top of things.
Yeah, like all these women characters. Those are the big 3 women characters of each trilogy, I would say. So like they're all go-getters.
You guys are forgetting one big feminist icon that I'm actually shocked you didn't, Jamie, you didn't mention when you watched the prequels. Yaddle. Yaddle is the biggest feminist icon around. Girl Yoda, guys, that was a big step. That was a huge step.
I mean, like, need I remind you again, I was aware of Star Wars as a kid, but I wasn't into Star Wars until
you weren't sitting there in 2015 watching The Phantom Menace going, that's me, when you're looking at Yaddle.
No, I can guarantee you I was not. I know you're kidding, but I guarantee you I was not.
But yeah, we got Yaddle's got balance to Yaddle's story in Tales of the Jedi. So
yeah, I love Yaddle. Although I will say but like
unironically love Yaddle, and then ironically love that they just put like Girl Yoda in the background.
A wig on
Episode
Yoda.
1. And just put a wig on the Yoda puppet.
Yeah,
and she's just sitting there going, She's got like the worst face on too. It's great. I love it.
I never think of George Lucas and like writing women as like a strength of his, but I mean, you got to give him credit for he did write Princess Leia, and she's a great character, and that kind of paved the way to characters in the 80s like Ellen Ripley, in Alien, Sarah
And
Connor, and Terminator, and
yeah,
even
and as you mentioned, Marion,
Marion
who was
Ravenwood.
another George
Mhm.
Lucas creation.
And once again, like not a damsel in distress, kind of set up like that, but she can handle her own, as we see for the most part in that like bar scene in Raiders. But
And then
yeah, I
he
mean, I don't
goes
know, like
Willy.
it all started. I feel like it all started with Princess Leia as a badass woman character back then. If there's someone earlier than that, that's off my film radar knowledge. I don't know. There
I
might
could
be
probably think of some, but none of them, like the fact that we can't think of them right now. I mean,
Right,
we are Star
that's the
Wars fans,
point.
but I mean, Princess Leia was the first one to really like break out into pop culture mainstream and be like I mean, there was like the femme fatale trope, but even then, that's like a trope and not the best trope to have, but better
Right.
than damsel in distress, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all incremental, and then you get to Princess Leia, and then you don't have to worry anymore. It was all over. we were all good, and the world held hands, and everybody was like, we did it, guys.
There's even a quote. I mean, it's not often I pull up a quote from someone to read it off here, but this was from Dave Filoni, I believe in 2016 at a conference he was doing. And he says, we're trying to create an environment where it's my hope that kind of just like Luke did, he opened the door. He just opened the door, let Leia out, and she just went gangbusters, which is kind of what we're saying here, right? But he wants Lucasfilm. I just want Lucasfilm to be opening the door to a new generation of filmmakers, of women to come to Lucasfilm and be creative. So like, that's the other point of this, not just on screen in Galaxy, but behind the scenes, we're getting a lot more women creators in Star Wars. So
I mean, we've had
great.
women directors for the shows, but let's get a female director for a movie. I know the Rey movie, the upcoming Rey movie, which hopefully gets made. Hopefully, I'm not looking back at this and being like, oh, but Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy is set to be directing that. So hopefully,
that's a big
she's
deal.
the first female director in Star Wars, film director.
I think that the biggest thing that this all is, with just like the behind the scenes of just getting more people involved with production, is, again, it goes back to women literally are 51% of the population.
I didn't want to correct you because I felt like the wrong thing to do at the time. But like 51%. It's like more.
So the fact that like they've just always been here. They've just been in like different roles like previously. What it really truly takes is someone who's a guy to open the door and be like, yeah, come in and join us, and like genuinely mean it and genuinely get them on the right path. And that is something that George has started with onboarding Kathleen Kennedy, and also Dave Filoni has done with onboarding all of his awesome creators that he has, like getting like Jennifer Corbett involved, getting Deborah Chow involved, just getting
Bryce Dallas
more
Howard.
people. Yes, getting Bryce involved. So like it takes someone who is an ally in order to get that opening for others, in order to get there. And that's something that like just can't be overlooked as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They seem to have kind of all the right, and I feel bad for not mentioning Kathy. I went straight to Dave, but we all know I love Kathy. Yeah, so I'm glad you brought her up.
She's George's hand-picked, self-appointed, or not self-appointed, George-appointed successor. That's huge.
Appointed. Yeah,
George appointed.
People don't realize that. I don't think
people don't realize that. I think people need to like do their research before they freak out about something.
Oh, people freak out and don't look things up.
I mean, like she built up like what she did like on her own, like as well. So like as I like say, like sure, it helps when someone helps open the door for you. It also is a lot of hard work on your own in order to get to it. Like I come from experience. I speak from experience in that setting of like there's a lot of like projects that like I worked on, at least like throughout like school and whatnot, that it was through my own damn hard work that I got to be able to like end up like running something for like 3 solid years at college.
You were my boss for 3 years
Yeah,
at college.
yep, exactly. But that was all just like hard work because it was like recognized, and someone was like, "Hey, yeah, actually, you're doing a really good job." And it happened to be a guy who did say that, and I ended up taking his job. So like sometimes it like works that way.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, obviously we're getting into the background of women in Star Wars here, but we do want to celebrate, our favorites of women characters in Star Wars. But is there anything else you guys wanted to say like on this part of the segment here of that we're kind of forgetting or anything?
No.
I don't
No,
want to
I
forget
don't
any
know.
details.
I mean, like,
In classic Marauder fashion, if it comes back, well, it'll come to our brain and it'll
Don't
come up,
worry,
but
we will
We'll circle back
derail the
somehow.
conversation.
we'll derail the crap out of
And
this
yeah,
conversation.
exactly.
But yeah, so I wanted to kind of break it down into our favorite women characters, and we can do it like favorite. I don't know what you guys want to do, but like favorite of the different eras, favorite in general. I kind of had the idea of doing favorite heroes and then favorite villains. Like
Sure.
how do you guys want to approach that? Because I mean, I have my
and
my
I mean
list of
anything in
ideas,
between. We do heroes and villains, and if any come to mind that we really like, we could just kind of
Okay. So we can start. We can start with our favorite female heroes. We'll start with the good guys and then go to the bad guys. But yeah, who wants to go first? Jamie, you want to go first? You want to go
well, yeah.
last?
I mean, I already mentioned Rey and just how important
Yeah.
she is for me. But yeah, she's just so important to me because like she was there when I needed her the most, and she always has like that determination and strength and the confidence to be able to like choose her own path and choose the way that she wants to be. And that's something that always like really resonated like strongly like with me.
Yeah. And I do see, we can just kind of spitball out our favorites as we go here, but I do see over your shoulder, you have an Enfys Nest.
Oh yeah, she's back there. I didn't know we were gonna like go. You want me to do my full list right now?
I mean, we can. I don't know. Well, we can get back to Enfys Nest, but I think Enfys Nest is a big deal because.
So I
yeah, go ahead.
Well, really quick since you pointed it out, but I had this Enfys Nest. Someone crocheted. I bought this at a convention last year. I'll take the helmet off really quickly. It's a little bit of a jump scare. I'm sorry.
Oh, I love that.
She's adorable. The woman who made her even put like her little like freckles in. It's a little bit scary though, so I leave the helmet on.
No, it's pretty cute. I remember that looking scarier for some reasson, but I think on camera it looked better.
It's pretty scary in person. But funnily enough, like about this little Enfys plushie, a good friend of mine saw it at a convention, and she like ran back to like where we were and was just like, "Hey, I saw an Enfys Nest thing. You need to go and get her." And I was like, "All right, I'm on it." When I went. But yeah, I love this little thing. But I love Enfys Nest because that's like another thing of just like she is so overlooked. I mean, Solo is so overlooked. But like I've always loved her as a character and just everything about her because like she is she's a child soldier who took over this entire group after her own mother like passed away. But she is like showing that like spark of rebellion and just like showing that you still need to like carry on no matter what. And it's a bit radical, but it's like a very cool and very unique character. And I love Erin Kelly, man. Like she has like been awesome like so far. Like I loved her in like Falcon and Winter Soldier as well. Like she hasn't done like as much as like we've hoped she was in Willow. But like man, I love her as well. So she's just like another like awesome addition to the Star Wars repertoire of actors.
I think she's kind of a great example of what we're talking about here because the movie set up, and people can think what they want to think, but I feel like it's a big surprise when she takes the helmet off and she's a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Like people, the deep voice in the mask, we're probably led to believe it's a guy. I don't know if Beckett says like he or about Enfys Nest or anything at some point, but
yeah, everyone thinks that in the beginning. I remember there was all like the news like at the premiere they hid Erin like coming in to the premiere, so like they didn't show she was there because they didn't want it to be like, oh, who is this? So like she's not in any of like the pre-publicity on the red carpet for Solo, which sucks.
That does suck.
But they wanted to keep it a surprise.
Yeah, but that was such a great reveal, and I pretty much remember being in the theater. And like you going in, you liked the look of Enfys Nest anyways. Mm-hmm. You were like, oh, maybe I'll cosplay that one day or something. You're still kind of thinking that, but that's a long story. But I pretty sure remember the helmet coming off of her to reveal that it was her. and you flew through the ceiling. You were like, whoa, this makes us even cooler. Like,
I'm pretty sure I literally had a I knew it like moment. Like I
Something like
like
that,
could
yeah.
tell. Like I like the first time like watching that movie, like you can tell. Like like I'm sorry, you can tell the way that she just like walks around and whatnot. It just made sense to me.
I hadn't given it any thought, if I'm being honest.
wait
Look,
a minute.
I will say this is something that probably would like fly over both of your radars, but like if it's something like that, like a woman like in disguise, it's something that like I like try and like pick out like all the time. Like in like the modern like shows, in like the newer live action shows, like I'll like look really closely to like see if like I can like tell if it's like a woman like walking or something in like stormtrooper armor, because like they do like try to like mix in more of them if they can, but they also try to like keep like the heights like the same for the most part, and so they try to just like cast usually guys that are like that tall.
Tall
But like
women.
I always like try to look to see if you can tell if any of them are like women, because like, there's like, not to derail about Phasma, but I thought this was like interesting that like when they cast oh gosh, what is her name?
Gwendolyn Christie.
When they cast Gwendolyn Christie, she's so iconic in her own right, and like she's also so tall.
Yeah.
That like she made like a big deal out of the fact that like she wanted to like stand differently to show that like she was like a female in armor, which I always thought was like super interesting. But I like, and it was like just like her way of like spinning it in there. So like I don't know, I always found that interesting, and I love that like she like added that like aspect as well. And I really wish that like she didn't die.
Hey, maybe she didn't.
You never know.
Yeah, you never do know.
Yeah, I just wish that like that we get like more from her as well somehow, and maybe in the future if they do like, you know, Last Jedi from a certain point of view, like what was she doing for the entire movie until she just shows up? I really want to know.
Good
Anyway,
question.
these are the things to think about.
Oh yeah, definitely. Matt, who were, you know, you can rattle off a couple, you can rattle off one. Who do you got for your
Well, I
some of your
mean,
favorite women heroes?
I've been thinking about Rey a lot lately, and that sounded weird. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean for that to sound as weird as it did. But so the more I have kind of like thought about Rey and like, you know, kind of fleshed out her arc, and I've been making a video lately, and I've been piecing everything out and doing everything. The more I realize that really Rey is like, so when you look at Luke Skywalker's character arc in the original trilogy, you get like the archetypal quintessential hero's journey as spelled out in the book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, that George, you know, was like reading like the Bible, for crying out loud, to make Luke's arc. And when people talk about the hero's journey, the first thing they think of is Luke, because he is like the archetypal hero's journey character. Well, Rey is the archetypal heroine's journey character. It absolutely boggled my mind when I first started reading about the heroine's journey. And like, first of all, just to get really quickly into it, the heroine's journey was created by Maureen Murdoch, who was a student of Joseph Campbell and who created the heroine's journey after Joseph Campbell kind of rejected the idea of a woman having like the hero's journey. It's a long story. Won't get into it. Not a good look, Joseph. But she created the heroine's journey. It's a book. I've been reading it. Very good at getting in touch with your feminine side and learning about that kind of stuff. I actually really found some of this stuff very interesting. Other stuff is all like dissecting dreams nonsense, but the other stuff's pretty good. And then that's also in the Hero with a Thousand Faces. Like a lot of Joseph Campbell's work is dissecting dreams. Anyway, long story long. Rey is like the archetypal heroine's journey character. If you look at the heroine's journey and then you look at like the steps that Rey goes through over the course of the 3 films, they line up beautifully, perfectly. And to me, that's not a coincidence. That cannot be a coincidence, because it is literally perfect. Like you could show like a baby, like a 2-year-old, like the heroine's journey and be like, oh, you know, now tell me what each step is that Rey goes through in the movies, and they would be able to point it out. It's so like just baseline archetypal perfect. And I don't think she gets any credit for that. And that's such a shame. And I honestly think it's just because a lot of fans are like those kinds of like dude bro people who don't know about the heroine's journey, who don't understand that side of like hero storytelling, because the heroine's journey is very emotional. It's not as physical as the hero's journey. So you get less of like and then, she gets really strong and she overcomes the person by beating the crap out of them. It's like not that way. It's like totally different. And yeah, so Rey is like perfectly that. And now I've been going back and looking at all these other characters and I'm like, ooh, that's a heroine's journey. That's a heroine's journey. But none of them are as good as Rey's. None of them. I will say, if you look at Katniss Everdeen in the Hunger Games, her arc is almost quintessentially the heroine's journey as well. And so, I mean, it's just really cool looking at that side of like women in storytelling and learning about like that structure. So yeah, Rey has like shot up the list of like to like one of my favorite Star Wars characters because of this whole like experience.
I'm happy to hear that. I'm always happy to hear that. I remember,
not that I hated her at the beginning or anything. I loved Rey. But like now I'm like, archetype. She's awesome.
I'm gonna bring this up, and it's funny. It's something we did maybe back in like 2019 or so.
I know what you're gonna talk about.
Yeah, I don't. It came up. We haven't talked about this in a while, but there was a thing. It was like a little website or link you'd go to, and you wouldn't like rank your favorite Star Wars characters, but it would say like this versus this, like Luke versus Jabba. Like you'd pick Luke or whoever, and like by the end, it would say like, judging on who you picked, what your favorite Star Wars character was, 1 to 100. I think it was. Yeah. It was a long one. It was fun though. I think it might have been during COVID and we had nothing to do. So we gave Matt crap because I think you had Rey at like 39 or something.
Dude, Rey was but like, yeah, she was like towards
Rey.
The middle.
You've always loved Rey. You love the sequel films like us, and it's like you didn't intentionally do it. It just happened. So
no, it was just one of those things. I think the thing like pitted her against like all of my favorite characters. It was like Rey versus like Kanan. I'm like, well, shit. It's like, damn tough. It. And then it would be like Rey versus Luke, and I'm like, damn it. And it would keep doing that. And I was like, and that's why she got such a low rank. But yeah, if I took that test again, hopefully it doesn't pit her against the same characters, but
it would somehow,
she would probably be higher. I will say that.
Obviously, I'm just giving you a hard time there, but it's good to hear your videos coming along. And I was hoping you would bring up the heroine's journey, so I'm glad you did.
Yeah, dude, the heroine's journey is so cool. It's awesome. Like learning about it and like just like, and now I'm like able to like point it out and be like, oh, that's this stage, and all these different characters, and it's like completely opened my eyes to like, and the best thing about the heroine's journey is that it doesn't even have to be a woman. You know, men go through the heroine's journey too, just like women can go through the hero's journey. And I think that's another reason why people kind of conflate Rey's, and Rey does go through the hero's journey, and the hero's journey is part of the heroine's journey, but that's a whole different thing. And again, I'm not going to get
all
into
intertwined.
It's a lot, but I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, we've all talked about Rey here, so I mean, Rey is definitely one of my favorite women heroes in Star Wars, and I don't really know what it is about her, but it's kind of what Jamie was saying. Like, she's on her own, a relic of the Empire, as Matt has said, living in a relic of the Empire, and scavenging relics of the Empire, in the Star Destroyer and everything. And I love her introduction in Force Awakens is one of my favorite parts of that movie, and one of my favorite things in Star Wars, how it just transitions to her wearing the goggles, takes them off or whatever she does. And her theme is definitely like musical theme. We're talking here. Her theme is just like probably one of my favorite Star Wars. It's a little whimsical, I think, as you said, Matt. Like, it took you a little to get used to it, but like, I don't know. I just love it, and she's just, I don't know. I personally liked where her story went. Like, I understand. I liked the Rey nobody thing. That was awesome, and I would have been fine if they continued that. But I also do like the Rey Palpatine thing. I know some people are probably cringing. Maybe even Jamie's one of them. But I like the idea of her overcoming that, and I liked kind of where that went. It might not have been the cleanest thing, but yeah, Jamie, what do you got?
No, I agree on all of that. So I've come around to it in the sense of she chooses who she wants to be in the end, and she doesn't let just a name or like her bloodline define her. And I think that is so much more powerful than the fact that she has Palpatine blood.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, sure, like I wish that like it developed differently in the films. Like I really do wish it was developed differently. Like, I wish maybe like she knew earlier, and like she was grappling with it a little bit longer. Because I think that would have been a little bit spicier. But like I think that it's fine that like that was the route that it went, and that was what her bloodline was, because at the end of the day, like the biggest message is you choose your own destiny and you choose who you want to be. And through your actions as a person, not your family's past, or like what your like, I don't know, what your holocron destiny tells that you're going to do. Like, you don't let that define you. You like you pick your own path. And I think that is most important. And that's like one of like the biggest like messages that like I've been like trying to like work through in like my life as well, of just like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and like I have the support around me that like I have chosen, that has given me good feedback, and I've taken care to make sure that I have worked out like the people that like aren't necessarily there to support me, or the ones that aren't really there on my side, and they might not necessarily be the ones that you thought originally. And I don't know, it's just a good message at the end of the day. Like I do like how she overcame everything at the end, and it's just a modern like take on it, because I don't know.
Yeah.
I liked it
No,
because of just like picking who you want to be based on your actions.
kind of like a choosing your own family kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, her arc, that's another thing that people always seem to get wrong about Rey, is that her arc is not a copy of Luke's, specifically because Rey's arc is not her wanting to become a Jedi, it's her wanting to find belonging in a family.
Yeah.
And if you look at the final films in each of the trilogies, they tell you exactly where this character's arc is heading. So like Anakin wants power and he becomes a Sith in Revenge of the Sith. Luke wants to become a Jedi and he becomes a Jedi in Return of the Jedi. Rey wants a family and she becomes a Skywalker in The Rise of Skywalker. So, you know, that if you ever need help figuring out what each character arc is leading towards, just look at the last film in each trilogy and it'll tell you exactly where they end up, where they're heading. And
Sith,
I think,
Jedi,
you know,
Skywalker.
Exactly. And that's important. The heroine's journey is very emotional. It's very much about finding your place, your belonging, finding a place where you're comfortable with yourself, and kind of, you know, integrating the masculine and the feminine side of you into something, you know, because that's the heroine's journey is all about. Kind of the woman feels the need to reject her femininity and embrace masculinity because of society, and, you know, the idea that masculinity gets things done. And then when they reach the place where they're supposed to get like the boon of success, they don't get it because they rejected their feminine side, and then they start to look for it, and it's like this whole big thing. And again, I won't get into it, but that
you're
more
saving
than
it.
I keep wanting to talk more about it, but I won't. But it is. I mean, it's emotional, and it's more about comfort than it is about, like, you know, justice. I'll say that.
You want to talk about Hera Syndulla? My
Of
favorite.
course.
Start with my favorite. Probably my favorite woman hero in Star Wars. First of all, best pilot in the galaxy. Don't come at me with anything. She definitely is. She's better than Poe. She's better than Han.
Poe.
She
outfly Wedge, who taught Poe. Probably.
Yes. Yep.
I would say so.
Better
I
than
would say
Han.
that she taught Wedge.
Probably. Yeah.
Better than Anakin.
Yeah.
I have no
that's-
disagreement here.
I think that's proven in Rebels. She
outflies Vader, for crying out loud.
Him.
She outflies Vader, and I'm sorry, she totally does. Like that move where she gets the Star Destroyers to turn on their tractor beams and catch Vader instead of her when she's escaping. That's brilliant.
Not
That's
to mention, she's smart with it too. All these other guys are just like, you know, balls to the wall. They just want to get from point A to point B, crashing into walls and whatever. And they're all flying. Keep in mind, they're all flying like starfighters of some sort, like that are meant to be going fast. She's flying a boat.
She's flying
This
a
lady's
yacht.
flying a boat. She's flying a yacht.
She's doing it.
She's
though.
flying a boathouse. Like, and it's so funny you say that, because I'm immediately reminded of the comics when Luke and Vader get in their first like fight after the Death Star. And Luke's in his X-wing, and Vader's in his tie, and he's like, I can't outfly this guy. So Luke just turns around and crashes into him. I love that.
So I'm holding up this Funko Pop that Jamie
When
got
does she
me.
ever fly in an X-wing?
I don't think
Does
she.
she flies in
I-
an A-wing in Rebels.
Maybe I'm a
plenty
fake.
of times.
She flies in an A-wing. She flies in a B-wing. I don't remember her flying in an X-wing, but they made this Funko Pop of her in an X-wing. So if anyone
Does she
remembers
fly
that,
in an X-wing in Squadrons? No,
I don't think.
I don't
so.
think
I don't
she
think
flies in
so.
Squadrons.
I'll have to turn in my Harrison Dilla fan club card if
That's
if
okay.
she does fly an X-wing and I don't remember
Yeah,
it. But
somebody
You
in
get
the
a pass.
Somebody
I'll
in
get a
comments
pass.
or let us
Or
know
Chad.
on Twitter or whatever, or just Chad in general. Just text us.
right now I'm going to be getting a text from Chad when he's listening or watching this, and I'm not sure actually. He's going to say something like that. But yeah, Hera's just awesome. We always talk about this. She's a huge comfort character for me. She's the mom of the Ghost Crew. People call her Star Wars mom, I guess, but like, I don't want to say like, I mean, it worked out well in Ahsoka, but like her in Rebels is like, I love that version of Hera. I love Vanessa Marshall's take on it. I mean, she is Hera, so she's the Ashley Eckstein as Ahsoka. She's Hera, and she's the heart and soul of Rebels to me. I mean, how can you argue she's not? Kanan is a huge part of it, but she's the heart and soul to Kanan. So like,
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
she's the one who keeps everybody together. She's the
Yeah.
one who connects to the outside rebels. She's the one that helps form the Rebel Alliance along with Mon
I know.
Mothma.
It's crazy.
It's like, I mean, that's just crazy, wild stuff.
And I just love her background, and I'm glad we got to see some of it in Bad Batch. Like that is my favorite Bad
Yeah.
Batch episode, 2-parter. With her living on Ryloth, with her father, her mother and father, Cham and
Elaney
Elaney. I almost said Anali. Elaney.
and Captain Hauser.
And like Cham, Captain Hauser, yep.
My guy, my boy.
Baja Ballast.
Baja Ballast.
Miss him.
So it's cool to see that her dad is he's a great character, how extreme he is, and kind of like how Hera isn't like that, and she kind of goes her own way with the rebellion, or starting the rebellion and Rebel
Yeah,
Cell.
because like she sees what Cham does, and she's just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
She's like, I agree, but I really don't agree with this, and so she just like takes it in her own way instead. And I really do like how she also just like pretty much strikes out on her own, because she's like, I'm not dealing with this. I'm not dealing with you, and I'm gonna do this my way, and I'm sorry, but goodbye.
Which is really brave to stand
Yeah.
up to a guy like Cham, pretty intimidating guy. Even Kanan Jarrus, who's gone through so many things, was intimidated by him. His
It's like one of my
quote unquote
favorite character
father-in-law
moments from him. Yeah, I mean, really.
Yeah. So like, I mean, I love Hera. I don't know some of the reasons you guys like Hera. Probably the same reasons. I mean, she's just
Everything I just said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you put it perfectly. She's the mom of the group, and moms are cool, and
Yeah.
she's cool.
Moms
That's
are
just
cool.
how it is. Moms are cool.
That's the quote of the episode. No, it's true. I mean, and then she's a literal mom because Jason Sedilla comes around
and then she becomes a literal mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, I wish that like there was more of an emphasis on moms in Star Wars, because like we do have a lot of moms in Star Wars, but usually something like tragic happens to them.
Yeah, no, it's
Like-
true.
Like
her
Hera's mom dies. We don't know
Rip.
how, but she does. Shmi, that
On
Padme
Peru.
herself. We
Rip.
never meet Padme's family. Any of that. Who else is a mom? Well, not
Rey's
a
mom
mom, but
in the
Aunt
novel.
Beru.
Leia.
Leia. That is a very tragic tale.
That is
The
an
way
incredibly
that develops.
tragic tale,
Um,
and so is Aunt Beru. Holy crap!
Yeah,
Is there not a
yeah,
single?
So what I'm getting at, like all the main characters who like their moms like get like mentioned.
Sabine's mom. No. But, yeah.
Jesus, there's not a single
It's-
normal mother-daughter thing without something tragic happening in
So
Star Wars.
Here's the thing. That's
Hmm.
one thing I wish that there was more of were more mothers and their daughters having some sort of like healthy relationships here, because we're finally getting a lot of these weird father and child combination shows.
Exactly.
There are so many, like so many. I love recently. I saw photos of this, but Lucasfilm does like a chalk festival every year of just like art of like their artists like do like little drawings. One group that works on the Bad Batch actually did a drawing of, it was Anakin holding baby Ahsoka, Mando holding Grogu, and then Hunter holding baby Omega, and it was just like the 3 dads and their kids, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. But like those are like the 3 of like those like instances.
Yeah.
Just anyway, I
fact.
just want more mothers in Star Wars that like,
Ahsoka's
aren't
mom.
like dead.
Ahsoka's mom was
Ahsoka's
pretty
mom was
badass
good.
until
She
she
was
was
great.
Jedi. I don't
Until
remember if
she
she
Give
died.
She
up
had to, like,
Ahsoka. She doesn't die, but
She had to
has
give up her
up.
daughter though, so but like
A part of the heroine's journey, step 1 of the heroine's journey is the separation of the feminine, in which our heroine rejects her
See, we're-
we're
We're
side,
checking off the boxes as we go here.
as manifested usually in her mother. She sees her mother as like weak or so like what's the word? Suffocating, and she kind of rejects her mother and turns away from her mother. And a lot of the heroine's journey is kind of coming to terms with your mother. So
Huh.
I don't really know what that has to do with like half the examples we gave though, because most of them are just like, oh, I'm a mom and now I'm dead. But there's some
Yeah.
good, there's some stuff in there. There's
I guess in Hera's example, it'd be like coming to terms with her father, and then
Yeah.
you know, but
yeah.
No, I mean that's an interesting point you bring up, Jamie. Like I didn't think of that.
I hadn't either until you
And-
just
Something I
mentioned
think
it.
about. This
we
is
have
again
so
something
many-
that both of you guys wouldn't think about, but something that I think about.
Yeah.
I
We
guess
have so many-
the healthiest like mother-daughter relationship I would say was probably like Leia and Rey.
Mother Talzin.
And even that ends. Yeah, Mother Talzin and Asajj Ventress, or Mother Talzin and Maul. There you go.
There we go.
So supportive. She's so supportive of her son
Oh yeah. Did we mention Mon Mothma?
and her daughter.
No, we
That's not
didn't
a very
mention
good
that, but that's also
relationship.
another
But
weird.
that's kind of tragic in its own way.
Although we'll
So
see in
far.
season 2. I don't know what happens to Perrin.
Marva.
not Perrin. What's her name? Marva's good. That's a
Marva.
perfect mother relationship.
Yes. Still pretty
Yeah.
tragic though.
She's awesome. Marva is so good. That is tragic, but I mean,
It's like
is
old
it-
age.
I mean,
it's a little different.
it's dying of old age is I mean, it is tragic to lose a parent.
Yeah,
It's
of
always
course, of
tragic to
course.
lose a parent.
but not
But
like the
I
other
think
ones.
it's not like getting blown up on a planet or getting murdered by Tuskens. It's different. And her death is like one of the big sparks of the rebellion. So that's like even cooler.
So
Marva.
Marva's the big one. That's a good one.
Marva's the least tragic mom in Star Wars. Confirmed.
If we can think of more.
Oh,
Okay,
I
good
got
one.
one. Mala. Mala's the least tragic mom in Star Wars. Chewbacca's wife.
Oh, of course.
Mother to Lumpy.
There you go. I'm gonna go watch the holiday special after this.
And speaking of female Wookiees, let's go with Sagwa. Love Sagwa.
Sagwa's good. Sagwa's good. On the
Shout
flip
out.
side here, Jamie mentioned, parent and sibling, parent and kid relationships, father, son, father, daughter. Let's talk about Omega.
I love Omega.
We all love, I mean, Jamie, you love,
I love Omega.
we all kind of like we love the Bad Batch, right? But we're always
Mhm.
like, I wonder what it is that like, why is it Jamie's number one thing? But it's because of Omega. So,
It's
like,
because of Omega. I mean, the one thing like with me, we've already heard my tale 10 times tonight. But like I fell into the Clone Wars late, and my favorite thing about the Clone Wars was always Ahsoka Tano. My favorite thing about the Clone Wars was the clones, and it actually it was like from the start. They were always my favorite, and I was just like so interested in everything about that. And the fact that like we got this arc for the Bad Batch, it's just such like a funny like little like unique group, and I just loved them from the start. And then the show developed so differently than what I thought it was going to be. Like I'm so glad it was their adventures post everything that happened in the war, and you just add an Omega. It was literally such a wild card to me of just like adding her into this, and I love her with every fiber of my being. Like I love her. I love Michelle Ang, and I just love Omega so much, and she's just everything. She is just the pure hope of the future of Star Wars. Not just of Star Wars, but the hope of the galaxy at this point as well. She doesn't even know it.
That's a perfect way to put it. Pure hope. She is like just one of the best characters because she's always just looking for like the positive in everything.
Yeah.
In the people around her, in the situations that she's in. It's incredible. She's awesome.
Yeah, because like we've seen her grow from being like silly little kid who doesn't know what she's doing and she's gonna run off, but she also is very smart and very quick to learn, and that's just part of being a clone of like that Jango Fett brain is just they're very adaptable. And so like I love how like she has like that like built in, but like she's just perfect, okay? Like she's makes her mistakes, but she's perfect.
And I think the show does such a creative way of, obviously she's hanging out with the clones, her brothers, and like I mentioned, she meets Hera. She meets another great female character, Hera, in season 1 of Bad Batch, and then season 2 with Senator Chuchi was some of my favorite moments for Omega. Like seeing the Senate and like, oh, where's the clones representation? It's like, oh, they don't have any. But like she's so not I don't want to say naive, but she's so like hopeful.
It's a very good question.
And it's heartbreaking because like we know that show and her story. I don't want to say her story won't end well, but her story is about to go through a lot of rough patches at some point, I imagine. So like it like breaks your heart because, and I mean, Omega's just the best. She is one of my favorite characters as well, just in all of Star Wars, just because she's another comfort character for me. She's so like hopeful, and it's like I want to be like that, and I think we can all see a bit of ourselves in her, like as we were kids and stuff. So I mean, she's just a kid exploring the Star Wars galaxy. Like I feel like as kids exploring the Star Wars galaxy, it's like that. Was I watching Attack of the Clones saying, hey, where's in the Senate building, where is the clones representation? Maybe, but I don't know. But yeah, I mean, another female character I wanted to mention. Well, we have to get to Ahsoka at some point because Ahsoka is like, very important.
Ahsoka is so big for so many people because Ahsoka is so big at first for people who were slightly too young for the prequels when the prequels came out, and then Ahsoka was their first like brush with Star Wars. And I love that like that was like some people's like introduction to Star Wars was everything through the Clone Wars and everything with Ahsoka. And she has just grown so much herself like over the years of just going from this character that like the fandom like hated literally because she was a girl to becoming like one of the most beloved Star Wars characters now. And I have faith that like all of these like main characters, all of these main female characters can have the potential to be that. Not just for like some specific people of which like that's like it's like this like small group of people is their favorite character. No, a lot of people do actually like love these characters because like they see them in themselves.
God. Go to any convention and count the number of times you see someone in a Rey costume. For crying out loud.
Oh, yeah.
I go to Star Wars Celebration, Rey numbers in the hundreds, and no one even comes close. Rey is number 1, number 2, and number 3 on the list of like the most costumes I see. It's not even close. It's ridiculous. It's like every time somebody tells me like, oh, nobody connects to Rey. Rey's a bad character. It's like not in the slightest, dude. Just look at how many people she like connect with her. It's just
you always see just like dudes that saying that, like dude bros.
It is
like,
literally just dudes saying that.
Look at other people's point of view, and like people don't do that, and it's like someone like Jamie or like other girls out there, like they see like this cool scavenger character that turns into a Jedi in a great moment at the end of Force Awakens. Like she's awesome. She means a lot to so many people.
Yeah.
So it goes back to what I said in the very beginning of this episode is you want to see yourself in this kind of content. Like you want to have your escape into this galaxy, and you're not going to be seeing yourself if that person, first of all, like doesn't like look like you, if that person isn't like the same gender as you, or like even if like the personality is like slightly similar, it's hard to sometimes like relate. And so like by having these characters that are like reflections of like what real people like look like that aren't just like one white guy like this entire time, like every single time, that's what sets it apart, and that's why it's so important. And I don't know, I've just been so anxious to like make this episode. It's been like years coming, and this has just been like so tough to actually just like sit through and just like try to just like talk about this because it's just stupidly so important, and we're all just like so scared to like talk about it. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, usually I mentioned at the beginning that we're all goofy. What did I say? Goofy group. But like, yeah,
the goofy group.
Sometimes we touch upon these very important topics, and as Jamie said, like we shouldn't be anxious to have to talk about these things, but like it should be normalized that this is a thing. Like the fact we're having an episode about women in Star Wars says it's not like we're gonna be having a men in Star Wars episode. Like says like
that's been every other episode.
Yeah, this is supposed to be this is important. Like, and we're talking about the reasons of why this is important, and it's how much it's grown since the beginning. Had something else I was going to say, but I totally forget. Oh, this is kind of a side topic, but like, it's kind of interesting. And it makes me think, like, what makes our favorite characters? Like Jamie mentioned, like we see ourselves in them, and it's true. Like, oh, we like that person's costume. Is that it? Or like, do they look like us? Do they act like us? It's kind of maybe that's a topic for another time, but that's interesting, right?
I think that like
Do we
for,
admire
like,
them?
favorite characters in general is like it's a combination of it's something that you can relate to personally, or it's something that like you dig deep yourself and it's something that you wish that you could have yourself or like experience yourself. And that's how like a lot of the times that like my favorite characters I get like super like attached to like that way. I'm just like that's like an experience that like I experience similarly, or it's something that like that's something that like I would like want to do personally. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that could be a cool topic or something we can get into another time with people.
Yeah.
But it's something to think
why
about.
are our favorite characters our favorite characters?
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I could
It's
list
also
off like 20,
acceptable.
but
It's also acceptable to just say, I don't know, I think they're cool. Like
Yeah.
I think that
I
that's
mean,
also
honestly,
totally fine. Like
when you
that's
were
also
talking about
super
that,
fine.
in my head, I was just like, I just think they're cool. I like them.
Cool.
And I'm trying to like figure out why I like them, but I'm like, I just think they're
so
cool.
we
they're
we
really
sort of
cool.
brought up Ahsoka, and Matt, I know you probably have a lot of good thoughts on Ahsoka and like why she's just. I mean, I guess I'll say my piece first because I introduced you, and then I'm like, no, I'll say something. But I'm sure you have something
Wow,
grand to say, so
unbelievable.
I'll save you for last. She's just been in so many things. Like how she's just great. We've seen like every point of her life, literally, with Tales of the Jedi. We
Yeah.
saw her as a baby.
Her birth.
Yeah, and then we see her as a young. Is she even a teenager in Clone Wars? I don't know the exact
Yes.
age, but
Very early.
She's,
But she's like 14.
she's very young. And then we see her, grow over the years in Clone Wars, and then into Rebels. When we see her, she's, not a totally different person, but very different. She's seen some shit, and
Yeah.
and then by the time of Ahsoka, she's still seen even more shit. So it's quite the journey. And
We've seen
Matt,
her birth.
take the
We've seen her death. We've seen her death. We've seen her death.
3 deaths.
But yeah, no, I mean, and she's just like she's one of those like generational characters that just like connects to like all 3 trilogies. Like I know she doesn't super connect to the sequels, but her voice is in it. She talks to
Yeah.
Rey. That's pretty cool. But yeah, no, I mean, when you said I had something grand to say about her, I mean,
She's pretty cool.
Well,
I just think
like
she's cool.
She's cool.
this is your chance to mention the heroine's journey again.
Yeah, I mean, she does. She goes through more of a hero's journey. I was going to talk
Gandalf.
about Bo-Katan
Okay.
at some
good
point
one.
because she also goes through a hero's journey, like a very archetypal classic hero's journey, where she takes up the sword, and one of the steps in the hero's journey is master of both worlds, and literally, the armorer calls her the master. She walks 2 worlds at some point in Mando season 3, so it's like that is definitely a click. But no, Ahsoka is definitely, in my opinion, and this is like a complete pet theory of mine that I've just like nursed for a long time, but I think the Clone Wars implements a lot of ideas that George's sequels were going to utilize. And one of the big ideas that we know from what George had initially written way back in the day, I'm not talking about like his latest drafts that he turned into Disney, but way back, he had a 14-year-old girl as the main character. And her name is, she has like a million different names. And I think Ahsoka is a manifestation of that. He took that idea and he made the Clone Wars, and he made the 14-year-old female protagonist. And on that journey, she goes through a bunch of different things that we see, like Maul returning and, developing the criminal empire. She dies and is resurrected, like we see Rey do later in the sequels. So she is kind of like the forebearer of all these different things, all these other heroes. Ahsoka kind of has like walked their path and like seen it. And I truly believe, like, and it's so funny to say this because Luke has always been seen as this character, but Ahsoka is really, I mean, Ahsoka the White is legit. Like, she is Gandalf. She is like the wise kind of like elder who's seen it all. And even though, you know, she isn't done learning, she learns a lot in her own show, and grows and kind of transforms a lot in her own show. Ahsoka really has become just like one of the foundational characters of Star Wars. I think that's just like crazy to think about, because when my aunt was here last week, I gave her a crash course on Ahsoka before we watched Ahsoka. So I picked out some episodes of Clone Wars and Rebels and then showed her scenes and stuff like that. And one of the things I did was I clicked on the movie and I showed her the scene where Ahsoka lands, gets off the shuttle, and is like, "Hey, I'm Ahsoka, and I'm Anakin's Padawan," and Anakin like freaks out, and I'm like, this is such an important moment. This is like so huge for Star Wars, and it's like back in the day when I was sitting in the theater in 2008 watching the Clone Wars, I would have never guessed that she would be as big as she is. And I am like totally jazzed to see where her journey takes her. Whether she, you know, returns to the galaxy or she stays on Peridia or whatever else. I'm totally jazzed to just see where Dave Filoni takes her.
Yeah.
I will say that I do hope she dies before the sequels, but that's like a weird thing to say, but I do.
No, I mean, I get what you mean. And I think a lot of people are in that boat of,
but we'll see. She'd be
a lot of
like
her
in her 80s in the
Yeah.
sequels. So 70s. So
Something like that.
She could live to be
so
in that age group.
And once again, this is kind of us going through our favorites of, you know, we don't want to forget anyone, but, you know, obviously we haven't talked much about Padme, but Padme's awesome. And you know,
Padme's
she's kind of
great.
like the first.
I wish we had seen a lot more of her Senate escapades in episode 3, because I think one of the main criticisms for Padme, and I think it's pretty legit, is that like for the 3rd movie, she spends like the entire time just like barefoot and pregnant, and sitting around the apartment and being like, "Oh, when's my husband getting back?" It's like, you filmed scenes of her in the Senate and like talking about the formation of the rebellion and like doing all these things. Why didn't you give those to us, George?
I know, which is great. Like we have Clone Wars to see a lot more Padme stuff
for
in
sure.
It, and that stuff's all really cool.
She shines in that. Most of the time. Her Jar Jar Padme episodes. And I love Jar Jar.
Don't sleep on those.
But I totally do. I totally sleep on those.
Clone Wars Jar Jar has like a Italian accent for some reason sometimes.
Dude, Gungans are space Italians. I keep telling you this.
That's true. You do tell me that. But
and I mentioned Bo-Katan. We can't end this episode before we talk about Fennec Shand.
I know I had her on my list. I think she's a great addition, and she was probably my favorite part of Book of Boba Fett. I mean, you know, she was great in that, and just being in the Mandalorian, I just wanted. We thought she had died.
Yeah, exactly. It was one of those things where it's like, who would have thought this character would become?
You don't bring in Ming-Na Wen to just
not me. As I said from the start, you don't bring in Ming-Na Wen and then just kill her off immediately.
You got that. I didn't catch on. I thought she was just another one of those like, hey, they bring on celebrities all the time to like stars like one-offs.
That's
true.
This was early on though. One-offs. We didn't know what they were doing.
That's true.
I knew
she
was
like
they brought her
probably
back.
the highest profile guest they had on Mando.
Yeah.
And I'm totally not looking at my shelf over there, but let's see. We got the Tusken Warrior. Ooh,
she's awesome.
I love
she's
badass.
She's awesome. Once again, maybe a little not underused, but like could have. Actually, do we ever know that she died or not?
Probably.
Sure they all died.
Wasn't there like a question mark there?
I think it was one of those things where everybody was like, "Oh, we don't see her body," and I'm like, "Yeah." There's a pile of burning Tuskens that she's probably in already. So I'm sorry, guys, but she could be alive somewhere. But I don't see them.
Sabine.
Back. Wow.
Sabine is
just like throwing him out there now. Is that what this is?
Well, Sabine is another character that goes through the hero's journey and the heroine's journey. Because I was when I was rewatching Rebels with my aunt, and I was showing her the Darksaber trials, the trials of the Darksaber, and then all the other things that are associated with that. Like when she goes back to Crow's Nest, she goes through a very clear rejection of her mother, and her mother kind of looks at her and says like, "Oh man, I see my stubbornness in you," and stuff like that. That's a heroine's journey and a hero's journey. And they intersect. But that's really cool. We're missing another big one that maybe you guys are gonna roll your eyes if I bring her up, but Jyn Erso.
I'm not gonna.
I'm not gonna roll my eyes. She's just if we're talking favorite characters, she's not on that
I
list.
think
But I
She's a
like
good
her.
one, good one to bring up. Yeah.
She's a good one to
She
bring up.
benefits greatly. I mean, I like Jin.
And
I've liked Jin in
you
in
mentioned-
Rogue One. I love Rogue One.
Not to cut you off, but you mentioned going to celebration or conventions. You see a lot of Reys. You see a lot of Jins.
Yes, you do.
And I don't want to just say because they're like easier costumes to do than Ahsoka. But yeah, I mean, you see those for people.
I mean, you see a lot of Ahsokas too.
Yeah, and it's like a lot goes into that. But like, you know, if you're gonna wear a character to a convention, like you love that character. Like you're not gonna just wear.
Oh yeah.
It's not like wearing a T-shirt. Like
Yeah,
so no matter-
exactly.
no matter
You
if it's
love
a,
that T-shirt if you're wearing it to a convention, though.
no matter the budget
Right.
you put into that costume, you love that. You're representing. You are that character for the day. So like, we see a lot of Jins. Jin's important.
If
So.
anybody at all is interested in Jin and wants more Jin content, Rebel Rising is such a good book. Totally slept on. Totally something that was not on my radar until one day I was like, I'll read it, sure. And then I loved it. And it gave me such a cool insight on Jin.
Another tragic mother tale.
Eels.
You're
right.
So.
Oh, back from
Seriously.
the dead.
It's Lyra back.
But she was
from the
cool.
dead.
She was a cool character in the 5 seconds we have with her. I mean,
She's
know.
very cool in Catalyst, I will say. I read Catalyst,
yeah.
and like that was
I have
actually the
not
best
read
part of
Catalyst
it.
yet.
I think I liked Catalyst more than I liked Rogue One
There
initially.
you go.
But
so
yeah,
we could go on. We could go on all day. Like there's Vel and
Yep.
Vel and Cinta and Andor, and
Mhm.
that's kind of a good transition because I want to get into cool female villains.
Oh yeah, we
in Star
haven't
Wars.
even
which
covered
is-
the villains.
Well, it's a
It's
lot
not as
shorter
much.
of a list. It's a lot
Yeah.
shorter of a list. A lot of them are kind of like
True.
Zam Wessel-esque, like.
Hey,
things.
don't sleep on Zam
Or-
Wessel.
Oh, I'm not. Or a Singh. I mean, like, but I wanted to bring up.
let's list off the bounty hunters.
I wanted to bring
I
up
know.
Deidre
Yeah,
Yeah.
Deidre Miro from-
is great.
because I mean she's awesome. Like
She's a fantastic character, an awful person,
oh
but
yeah,
she's a fantastic character.
but great villain.
And I
Mm.
love that they used her to cover like Cyril, like when he stalks her and she's like, "This is not okay. Like, get the hell away from me." I'm like, such an interesting way to like cover that real world topic, like
Yeah,
through Dedra Mira. Like, okay, but yeah, I that was a very interesting scene, very important but interesting scene for like.
Yeah.
But then they end up kind of like teaming up at the end, and I'm like, oh, weird.
Out
I
of
don't know where that's gonna
desperation.
go. We'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see.
We'll see where that goes.
I like
who do you
Dedra.
guys? Who do you
I
guys
like,
have as villains?
Asajj Ventress
Yep.
is
of course.
is an awesome character from start to finish. She's a villain, and then she's a hero, then she's a villain, then she's a hero again. Just awesome. God, it's like, what can I even
Asajj is like
say?
Asajj is like a definitely like if we were to poll the people listening to this and watching this, like I always see people rave about Asajj Ventress. Like
I think
she's
if we-
definitely like up there as one of the best female villains.
If you were to just like throw out there, be like, "Oh, who's your favorite female Star Wars villain?" I think most people would say Asajj Ventress. Like,
hell, even if you said
first off.
favorite female Star Wars character, a lot of people would
Yeah.
say Asajj.
No
so.
kidding.
Yeah.
She's awesome. And you know, if we're talking about Night Sisters, we got to talk about Merrin.
Yep,
Merrin is
absolutely.
an awesome character as well. I loved her in Fallen Order. I especially loved her in Survivor, and she's in Battle Scars.
yes, she
Your
is.
favorite book. Matt giving a lot of
Um,
shout outs to books here.
I'm sorry, but
No, it's good,
Battle
it's good, good.
Scars has a great ending. I will say that, and it's some great themes in it. And if you like steamy romance, yeah, read that book.
It's not that steamy.
It's probably
It's the steamiest Star Wars has ever gotten.
No, it's not like
steamier in
okay.
Survivor.
It's steamier in Survivor. Like it's not like stuff is like shown in this book. It's mentioned.
And
It's mentioned.
like,
That's
the,
why
like,
I say it's
thoughts-
not steamy. It's mentioned.
If we're talking,
Hey,
if we're
that-
talking
Yeah,
about
Matt, you were shitting yourself when you were reading this book, and I
Dude.
remember I read the same chapters as you, and I'm just like, I don't know what Matt is
This
thinking
is
here, but
Star
it's not.
Wars. That
Have
was
you
so
read-
it's so saucy for Star Wars. I'm
Have
so
you
saucy
read
for Star Wars.
Rising Storm?
Yes,
Very
it's saucier than
saucy.
Rising Storm, and we
Yeah,
didn't
it
even cover any
sucks.
of the. It sucks. We didn't even cover any of the
Oh, you
characters.
didn't cover any of the High
from the
Republic.
High
I mean,
Republic.
I love
It's a
Avar
lot.
Kriss.
It's a
I
lot.
love
Avar
Keith
Kriss,
Trennis.
guys. Trennis. We're gonna see
Vernestra Rowe.
Vernestra Rowe in The
Yeah.
Acolyte.
That's a big deal. That's gonna
I
be.
love
And-
Ember the Charhound.
I
Yeah.
want to specific. If we're talking about villains, I want to shout out my favorite female Star Wars villain would probably be the Mother, from Phase 2 of the High Republic.
Okay.
She is so good.
Another tragic
Alicia
mother story.
Zeveron is such a good. No, not a mother. I won't say anything more than that. But her twist fumbled a little bit, but not too bad. I think she was still a great character, an awesome character. The Mother is so cool. But yeah, like I said, probably my favorite woman Star Wars villain for sure. Actually, great villain. She rivals Marchion Ro for me, if I'm being completely honest.
It's a good one.
The Path of the Open Hand is such a cool cool villain group. And now I'm trying to think. There's obviously others. The Magistrate, or
Morgan Elsbeth.
Morgan Elsbeth. Yeah.
Lady Morgan instead
Lady
of Lady
Morgan.
Elsbeth for some reason.
A lot of nicknames for her. Trilla. Trilla is a great.
Trilla.
Trilla.
I love Trilla.
Trilla.
Trilla. Stella.
That's what I say it like that.
Trilla.
Oh my gosh.
We touched
that's
on-
Cal.
Yeah,
The
it is.
entirety of Fallen Order. Cal is just like Stanley going, Trilla.
It's that moment in Survivor. It's Cal like hearing that himself.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And then Seer Junda, great character.
Great
Mhm.
character. I hate that we're bringing
her
up during
last
the
words
villain
are Triller.
segment. But yeah.
Trilla.
Trilla adjacent.
Yeah. Mother Talzin, we talked about.
Who else we
Mother
got?
Talzin, I had a good one, and then I'm letting
Sam
it
Wessel?
slide. Sam Wessel's the best, one of the best.
Oh, we're
Great
gonna leave with the Dr. Afra, and then leave it up. there.
Oh my god.
Dr. Afra is
Jeez,
awesome.
Louise.
One
Dr.
of-
Afra.
Rogue
Probably
archaeologist.
my favorite comic character.
I mean, she's
Sorry.
the defining comic character. If you think of like each piece of media, I'll say like the video games and the comics and the books all have like these central characters. And I would say Dr. Afra is the defining Star Wars comic character. Just
Yeah.
like I would say, Cal would probably be the defining video game character, at least for the time being. But we're gonna get more Kay Vess.
Mhm.
We're talking about future
wanted-
women characters.
I wanted to bring up K-Vest. I'm glad you brought that up. We hung out with you last night, Matt, and we talked about how we're excited for that game. We were playing the Mission Impossible game on PS1, and for some reason you're
ask
like,
why.
you know what? I can't wait for Outlaws.
I'm
Or
so
Outlaw?
excited for Outlaws.
Outlaws, plural.
Yep.
So
Outlaws pure.
we were talking about that, and then you were going into like how people are mad about this
not
is
being able to customize their character.
we can't
and all
customize
that.
characters. And I'm like, wait a minute, they didn't bring this up for Fallen Order. People love Cal,
No.
and for good reason. Cal's awesome, but they're only bringing it up because they're probably pretty sexist. So
My theory, at least. And it doesn't have to be overt, and it doesn't have to be.
Right.
It doesn't have to be what's the word? Malicious. But
Yeah.
it's just something to think about. Why are you so disappointed that you couldn't customize this character and not say Cal, for instance?
Yeah.
I mean, you can customize Cal. You can make him give him mutton chops and a big old mullet, but that's
And if
still
you-
Cal.
if you
And
were-
you could probably do the same thing for Kay. Give her
Yeah.
mutton chops and a big old mullet in Outlaws, and we're
I don't know.
forgetting another main Star Wars video game character, Iden Versio. I
Yes.
love
Yes,
Iden Versio.
Iden's awesome.
Iden is great. I want to see her more. In fact, they should bring the actress back for these friggin' New Republic shows. What the hell are they doing?
They should.
She's one of the founding, people of the New Republic military, for crying out loud.
I was just gonna say, there's another mother-daughter relationship that ends in.
Ooh, that ends in tragedy. Damn it. But Zay Versio is a great character.
Zay Versio is great.
Guys, if
Zay
you
is
want more Zay
awesome.
Versio, read or play Resurrections and then read Resistance
Reborn.
Reborn.
That's like the best part of that book.
Yeah, it's good
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah, Zay is awesome in that book.
Connix, another
Yep.
character.
Yeah.
We can talk about Rose.
Yep.
I love Rose.
Yeah,
Well, we could just like the next 10
Rose
minutes
Tico
just rattle
and
off
Kate
names.
Tico.
But
But Rose is great. Rose is legit. I want to take some time to actually talk about how great Rose is, because Rose is actually really great. Obviously, she's the angel on Finn's shoulder. And she has, in my opinion, just one of the great lines of Star Wars. And I know people are going to roll their eyes. I know there are people out there who are going to listen to this and be like, Matt, you suck. I hate you. But not, fighting, saving what you love instead of fighting what you hate. For some reason, I'm not bringing out the exact line, but the idea behind that line is incredibly important and exactly what Star Wars is all about. There has never been a moment in Star Wars where a main character kills another, like the villain, just out of like hatred. It's always to save somebody, whether it's the Death Star, zoning in on Yavin 4, or Anakin killing Palpatine to save Luke, or any of the other examples I could think of. Any of them. Literally anything.
It is a great line. I think for me, it was just like a weird timing to use the line. I
mean,
it
definitely is a weird timing, and I'm not really a fan of the kiss either. But we can get into that.
It's a little odd, but
the
meaning of the line is perfect. Like that should be the theme. I mean, that kind of is a theme of Star Wars. So,
the Armorer, and shout out to Emily Swallow, friend of the show, who
Funko Pop right here,
who enlightened us all about that character and how great she is. Definitely check that episode out if you haven't.
And she called me out for.
She called you out for thinking she was the bad guy,
thinking she was a bad person. So,
Size Noodles. Shout out to Kristen Baber, friend of the show.
Size Noodles.
Size Noodles. Size Noodles, best woman character in Star Wars, and we're done. We can just wrap it up right there.
That's true. That's what it is.
So
this has been So this has been a kind of deep dive about women in Star Wars with the HoloNet Marauders, in which we just talked about how it's important to see yourself in Star Wars, and that's what it's all about. We talked about all of our favorites and definitely missed like a good handful of them, but that's usually how it goes.
We'll do more.
Yeah, we'll be back. We'll do another similar episode sometime. But yeah, we'll be back another time on the HoloNet Marauders podcast. You can find us everywhere on social media at HoloNet Marauders. If you've been watching this video version, we have an audio version, Take Us to Go, and any major audio listening platform for podcasts. If you've been listening to the audio version, we have a video version as well. Check us out on YouTube. And that's all. Yeah, that's all we have right now. Yeah. Anyway, this has been the HoloNet Marauders podcast. We'll see you guys next time.